If you're in the stages of building your first ever SaaS business, then it can be really easy to get lost in the weeds. Questions that I came across when I was first doing this was, well, what kind of TAM do I take on? Total addressable market. How scalable does this product need to be? How do I actually differentiate in the market if there are competitors? And if there are zero competitors, is that a good thing or a bad thing? When should I double down on this business and stop doing anything else that I'm doing or any other ideas that I have? If I have a services business, when do I stop doing that and fund and actually double down on the SaaS business? These are all questions that I personally came across when I was going through this journey. These are questions that I get asked all the time from founders and pre-founders in this community. And having navigated that whole journey, having coached others and advised founders on navigating these things and seeing a lot of the patterns, on this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know on how to be effective and successful and cut through all the noise on building your first SaaS business and actually getting to initial revenues and scaling from there. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS business faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you are new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. If you're already part of this fast growing community of SaaS founders, SaaS leaders, SaaS practitioners, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. So I remember my last SaaS business that I was starting. I had a full-time job in finance. I was working at a company called Bridgewater, the largest hedge fund in the world. And this was like early days for Bridgewater. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna get back into startups. I'm gonna start a company. I know it's gonna be a SaaS business. And there were so many questions that was buzzing through my head. Like, when do I quit? When do I double down? What kind of idea, which idea do I double down on? Which market do I go after? Is it gonna be a small bootstrap company or do I go for venture capital? All of this was just buzzing in my head. And even though I had some experience in startups from my prior company, this was the first true, like, I'm just gonna go at it. And I was a solo founder that time around. And so having navigated that, having navigated and helping navigate other founders through these questions, I came across some key principles that really helps you cut through this noise and not get too overwhelmed on how do you actually get into that first SaaS business, how do you get to initial revenues, and then how do you figure out the options from there to grow and scale and really go after your dreams of being the CEO and founder of a SaaS business. So having navigated this journey, having taken Tout, my last company, to first, we were cash flow break even. Then we raised venture capital, decided to go VC backed. Having scaled the company, having sold the company, having gone through ups and downs, having sold the company that bought Tout, that was Marketo, I was SVP of strategy there, having gone through all of that, and having coached other founders in this exact stage, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know as you navigate this journey. And when you follow these principles, you'll be able to cut through the noise and really dig into what matters. If you're excited to dig into principle number 1, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. And let's get into principle number 1. So principle number 1 is, if this is your first SaaS business, having gone through my journey and seeing other founders, the first thing I would recommend, the principle number 1, is to focus on a micro SaaS business first. A micro SaaS business is like a SaaS business. It's like a software business. It is, but it is a much more focused product. It's a much more niche product going after a very niche audience. And it is a product that's not trying to build out everything. It's trying to be very focused on delivering a very specific ROI for a very specific group of people. The best part about a micro SaaS product is because it's so focused, it's so niche, you can actually get it to initial traction and revenues a heck of a lot faster, assuming your thesis is right about the market. And we'll talk about that in the next principle. And the best part about this is, if you start with a micro SaaS idea, which is like a very focused SaaS product, you will always have the option and the right and the conditionality to say, you know what, now we can expand beyond being a micro SaaS. Meaning, if you focus on this specific thing and you really get it working, you get those quick revenues, you get that traction, you're like, oh my God, there's a thing here. But then you start to see a broader opportunity, which you almost always will. You can decide on whether you keep operating that as a micro SaaS, or you say, no, let's actually expand our vision, expand our TAM, expand our product, turn it into a full platform, raise venture-backed money, and really go for it. And you'll have that optionality. The opposite of this principle is trying to, as your first SaaS business, trying to build this massive thing. And you get stuck in the one more feature trap. And you're like, well, we got to do this and this is going to be huge. And you end up neither here nor there. And this is why I always tell founders, and this is how I did it with my prior companies, especially ToutApp. It started with like, hey, let's just build a small tool. It'll be self-service and let's see what happens. And then from there, we were backed by Andreessen Horowitz, and they don't invest in small TAMs. And so we went really big on the vision, but we earned that right along the way. And so my principle number one is, if this is your first SaaS business, your perfect SaaS business should be a micro SaaS product at first, because it helps you really get in there, get things going, get things moving. And as you start to get that traction and that momentum, a bunch of decisions on, do I double down on this? Do I expand on this? Do I raise money? Becomes a lot easier to answer versus being stuck in this theoretical land where we're building this theoretical product and you'll never know when it's going to be done and if anyone's going to want it. So that's principle number one. Micro SaaS just works way better. Principle number two is you want to be very specific about your target market. When you're doing a micro SaaS product or just fleshing out the strategy for your perfect SaaS business, you want to be very clear about what target market you're going after. There are two big things that I always look for when I'm talking to founders, and believe it or not, early stage investors, if you're raising money, look for this as well. And any savvy investor, and you're essentially an investor here, investing your own time into an idea, should look for this. The first thing you want to look for is, are you going after an urgent and important problem that exists in the market? Meaning, are you going after a market that has a very urgent and important problem? It's top of mind for them, and your product and your solution can actually solve that. A lot of times, people assume that principle number two is product. They want to build this amazing product, but truly, the thing you learn the hard way, the thing I learned the hard way, and I also learned through getting lucky in finding the right ideas at certain points, is that markets matter more than product ideas. Product ideas are great, they're cool, your product is awesome, but unless it's mapped to a market that has an urgent and important problem, then nothing will work. And so what you want to do is think about, okay, if I'm building this very focused business that delivers quick ROI, we want to get traction going quickly, solves a very specific problem, it's very niche. What is the market that I'm going to be solving this for, and is it an urgent and important problem? The other thing that I've found to be very important is founders that go after markets that have domain knowledge, meaning they have experience in that market. They know people in that market. They know how things work. They know what the problems are, tend to do better. I'm not saying you have to pick one like that. It could be tangentially related and you can get good at it. But if you are going after a market, a target market that you know a lot about, maybe you have a lot of domain knowledge from running a consulting company or a services business or in a profession, and you're like, I want to solve this problem that I know exists for me and all of my peers, so I'm going to build a software company around it. It's going to start as micro SaaS. I'm going to go after this market and we'll expand from there. That's the type of founder that tends to do better. That's the type of founder I was, and that's the type of founder that tends to do better, particularly in B2B, business-to-business software. The rules where you see this being broken is that 19-year-old founder that created the next great social app. That's the B2C app. And those, they tend to do better because younger people try those new social apps and do really well. And so they have domain knowledge in that market. They're living that life. So they tend to do better. But in business, it tends to be where it's B2B founders with some experience in a target industry, target profession, target role, and they're like, I want to solve this problem. And that's why picking the target market very carefully where you have an urgent, important problem and domain knowledge actually increases your likelihood of success and eliminates a bunch of choices that are just not good ideas. Now, once you've picked the type of model you're going after, and I recommend micro SaaS, and you can always expand from there, then you pick the market that you're going after, you want to vet those pieces out. There's a third principle. Now, before I go into the third principle, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this for your first SaaS business? And I think that, every great founder, and you will be a great founder, you are going to have multiple successful companies. You may just have one amazingly successful company, but it always starts small. This is one of the things that Jeff Bezos talks about all the time. Big things start small. And that's what the principle here, underlying principle here really is. If you're starting to see the power in this, if you're starting to see how following this approach, even these first two principles can help you cut through a lot of noise and really get to that initial product, initial company, initial traction. Can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like subscribe button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that, and so do we. Also, if you're in the stage where you're fleshing out your idea, you maybe have already started to build a product and you're trying to figure out, well, how do we get it to initial traction, initial revenues? I run an in-depth webinar every single week. And in that webinar, it's completely free. We go in-depth into exactly how to piece together the key parts to make sure that you can get to that initial traction, initial revenues, and vet that idea. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode, because right now, we've got to get to principle number 3, right? So principle number 3, finally, is product. And this is intentional. You'll notice, like, first I was like, what's the business model? What's the type of scope, right? That's micro SaaS. Then I'm like, cool, what market? Is it urgent and important? And then finally we get into product. And I've made this mistake as well. I originally started as an engineer and then I learned go to market because you're required to as being a successful founder. You have to get good at that. And then you hire people around you to be better than you than that, but you're dangerous enough. So I went through this whole journey, but in my early days, baby TK was really obsessed with product. And there are so many great SaaS products that never saw the light of day, that never hit product market fit, that never got initial traction because they didn't actually do the work around what's the right market and how to actually take it to market. And that's what some of these pieces are. But it's also important to have a really great product. Just as important. It's all important. And so principle number 3 is you actually want to flesh out your product. And the key components you really want to hit is your product needs to be easy to use. I see this very often, especially with first-time founders, first software companies. Your perfect software company, your perfect software business needs to be something where your ideal customer can get into the product very easily. If they have to go through a huge process of onboarding, if they have to hook into all these 50 different systems and you have to go through a security review, I'm not saying that's impossible. That's a really tough thing to do as your first software company. That goes against the rules of a micro SaaS product. So micro SaaS product is easy to use, it's easy to get into. It actually hooks into their existing workflow. You find a really unique way to hook into their current workflow, how your target customer or target user goes through their job, and they can actually easily use the product in their workflow. They can quickly get into it. And most importantly, the product delivers some value quickly. This is, again, around the ethos of solve a very specific problem, go for a specific market, and solve that problem really quickly, really easily. So they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This completely changes my life. And that's exactly what the bar is for your product. You want to make it easy to use, easy to get into, hooks into their workflow, and solves the problem really quickly for them. And then if you solve that very specific problem, you earn the right to solve bigger problems around them. And that's the power of this strategy. Those are the key things that I would do if I were starting another company. This is what I've learned. This is what I coach founders on. And if you are building your first software company, your first SaaS business, you want that perfect business for you. This is the key principles to really internalize and follow because it'll help you cut through that noise. To recap, number 1, you actually want to know exactly what model you're following, and I recommend a micro SaaS model so you can really get in, get early traction and revenues, and then earn the right to expand from there. Before you think about the product or fall in love with the product, you want to make sure what your target market is, whether it's urgent and important, and whether you have domain knowledge in it. And then you want to craft the product so that you solve that very specific problem. It's easy to use, and people can hook it into their workflow, and you can deliver value quickly. And so now you know how to actually follow these principles to get to that perfect SaaS business for you. What you may not know is if you've got this idea and you're starting to figure out, well, how do I get to initial revenues? Or how do I stress test this and make sure the market is right? What you may not know is how to actually go through that process. This is why I run a webinar every single week. It's completely free, where I go in depth into exactly how to take that idea and get it into initial revenues, how to go through that process, how to flesh out the key pieces and think about them. What are the core principles around them? It's completely free. All you need to do is just go to tkkader.com/webinar. tkkader.com/webinar. When you go over there, you just fill out your info, and then boom, it's completely free. And then we put you right into the webinar, so it's super easy workflow. And in that in-depth training, I'll actually walk you through how to vet out these key pieces, like what's the market gonna be, what's the product gonna be, what's the go-to-market gonna be, so that you can go from that idea stage or that product that you've built to initial revenues. If you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really loves it when you do that, and so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. I also drop an episode like this with actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business, how to become a successful SaaS founder, SaaS leader. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon where you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. If you have a fellow founder, a fellow team member, if you're part of a Slack group or WhatsApp group or whatever community for SaaS founders and you feel like they would get value from this video, please share it with them. These videos are completely free on this YouTube channel so we can serve the SaaS community. We can help as many SaaS founders as possible in building incredible SaaS companies. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode. If you're excited to dig into principle number one, go ahead and smash that. Ooh.